Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. We are waking the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This is called How to Be Brave, Self-Healing Tools for Love Warriors. And y'all are about to meet three amazing love warriors in a moment. Before I introduce them to you, I want to tell you a little bit about this. You know, back in May, we met up in New York for a beautiful writers retreat. And I had many of the authors show up for that. And we spent some really magical time together. And I'm just so grateful to all of you for being here, for being a part of that, but also saying yes to writing in the book and coming here with me today to interview about it and really help people understand how they can take a step forward with courage, right? This is such a juicy topic. We have so many amazing things to tell you guys about today. So love warrior number one is Emily Atlantis, and she helps people move from stuck in their life circumstances to flowing to their heart's desire. I have Jeanette Stewart here. She's an angelic practitioner and self-care specialist, assisting you in living with more love, joy, and peace. And Barbara Hanley is a retired family nurse practitioner, educator, and healer utilizing several modalities. All right, gals. Barbara, I'm going to start this party with you. Can you tell me, why did you say yes to the Brave book?
It sounded like an amazing opportunity. I became a grandmother through my husband, whom I married very late. And in getting to know these children, now almost young adults, that it's been a challenge for me to get to know them better, and in getting to know them better, to know me better. And working out this relationship as a fill-in grandmother for their original one, who actually died quite young. And so it was self-exploration, and then how to interact my many years with their young years, and see how that would work.
I loved reading the exchange between you and your granddaughter. The scene that you brought us into was marvelous. And what it did for me is it took away age, and how you were talking to her about, yeah, I won't ruin it for you guys, right? You're going to want to read this chapter. But I just felt so much wisdom there, and also so much love. But also, you're a pretty cool grandma, girl. What else do you want to tell us about that relationship?
It's blossoming. I'm getting to know her better, and she was so excited when I told her that she sent me a sketch of herself. In a note, she sent me a note, and she included the sketch of herself and I, and it was, yeah. And the relationship, my inquiries really strengthened and helped her to open up more and me to open up more.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain level of awareness in those relationships to speak to a younger generation in a way they not only feel seen and heard, but in a way that inspires them to talk to you, especially when our kids are in front of screens all day long and it feels like they're losing their ability to communicate with actual humans. I think that was part of what I loved about that that dialogue you shared and that piece of it. Um, you talk about a subject in this chapter that I hadn't really heard the term. You're going to have to remind me, because I'm going to get it wrong. Is it emo? Am I getting it?
Emo,
Okay.
yes,
Oh, I got it right. Yay
you
me.
did.
What do you want people to know about what that is?
Well, I had no idea. And when she explained it, she said it was part of a musical genre, and the musical genre was emo was short for emotional post-hardcore, is what she said. And then she said socially also refers to people that look and act like me, and listen to the kinds of music I like angry teenagers who wear a lot of black, are sad, and like Rage Against the Machine. And 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 I hadn't really recognized that part of me. And so it took me, so I have to explore this. And so that's what triggered it. And so yeah,
I love
being
it.
in the she thought that I was, and I thought I was the antithesis of that. And I guess not, because she could see it.
Well, what a wonderful opportunity, and also just an invitation to readers to like have those conversations. Barbara, thank you for saying yes to this project and for being here today.
Thank you.
Atlantis, what was the why behind yours? Why did you say yes to this brave book?
Well, I mean, to me, it was so easy because I love being part of the Brave Healer community, which you can see all the books that I've been in. This is my 12th or 13th book project. So the opportunity to be in this one and to do a fire ceremony at a retreat with real people who I've already seen online and seen in interviews and been in book projects with, it was too juicy. It was too tantalizing. It was easier to say yes than no. It was like, why would I say no? Like, of course, yes, I would love to do that. I'd love to be part of that.
So I'm just sitting by the fire and listening to you with your magical words draw us in, invite us into that beautiful experience. You were helping us with limiting beliefs. What do you want to tell people about that piece of what you do in terms of your fire ceremony?
For me, I have a close connection with the element of fire, which I consider to be the most spiritual element because it doesn't destroy anything. It transforms everything into heat and light. And I have seen people get kind of airy-fairy about, if I'm going to be spiritual, I can only be light and bright and happy and shiny, and there's no room for the other stuff, which of course is bologna sandwiches. The most important parts of us, the hidden parts, are the ones that keep us alive, that keep us socially going in a group, that have allowed us to make it as far as we are. But sometimes those beliefs become a little too tight. And suddenly we find ourselves having a very narrow view of life and saying, my version of success is only one thing. And if I can't have this one thing in my life, then I'm a failure. We get very attached to those outcomes. But it's just this shackle, this binding, this sort of idea that either someone put on us, like if we're not rich, we're not successful. If we don't own a house, we're not successful. If we're not married, we're not successful. Somebody puts these ideas on us. And then later in life, sometimes between like age 36 and 40, most women just say, I'm done. I'm done. I did all the stuff I was supposed to, and I'm not happy. Frankly, I'm kind of angry. And so that fire really comes up for women in particular right about that age. It's a very magical age. So by the time you're 50, like me, I'm over 50. You've burned everything up, and it's almost like, well, what other limiting belief can I let go? How else can I be happy? How else can I make myself happy? And so fire is a beautiful, simple way. You could do it by yourself. It's way more fun in a group, and sit with it. Where's the limiting belief? Where is it in your body? Who gave it to you? Find it, mine it out, put it into a physical object, and give it to the fire, and allow it to be transformed to heat and light so that you can fill yourself back in with your story that you told yourself. And that's why I love it, because it's a way to take off what was never ours and recreate ourselves in our own way.
I love that. Okay, I'm gonna ask this, and we could be here for 3 hours on it. So I'm gonna ask you for the brief answer because I can't leave you without mentioning dragon energy.
Mhm.
So this is a piece. It's hard to describe this sometimes, you guys. Like, it's a piece of the modality,
Mhm.
this magical blend of fire ceremony, the things you just heard about limiting beliefs, but also just, again, I know there's a lot here, but what do you want people to know about that kind of energy?
So the energy that informs all of what I do. So I'm an ordained shamanic minister, master shamanic breathwork facilitator, and I have a lot of shamanic training background and stuff. But underneath all of that, what is the sort of the guiding energy underneath is dragon energy. We happen to be in the year of the wood dragon, so it's very trendy. It's very popular to be talking about dragons. And this is the ancient energy. So angels and dragons came forth before anything else in the universe. They have no sort of disconnect between their soul and their ego. They are fused and whole beings. And they are here to help us as we reframe and reconnect our pieces. So you could think of dragon energy as the path to sovereignty. Where am I in my most powerful form? When I'm ready to become okay with my dark parts, my unpretty parts, my crony, witchy, ugly, swampy parts, and be as proud about them as my pretty, shiny, star, angelic, divine, it's all divine parts, then you're really coming into dragon energy, which is to say that sovereignty of wholeness of who you are in your most potent form. How's
I
that?
love it. Thank you. That was perfect. Good job. Good job condensing it is what I meant, because there's you heard Atlantis just say, I do this and this and this and stuff, like the and stuff. There's a lot of stuff there. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being here today. Jeanette, tell us a little bit about what the why behind your yes to this. Oh,
Have the love warrior coming through. And I was like, I wasn't sure if I was brave, but I knew I was a love warrior. So that sounded really inviting. And then when you talked about the writers retreat in New York, I'm like, ooh, that sounds juicy. I could do that. So I was brave and went. I didn't know anyone that was going to attend when I first signed up, and it just felt like a big, delicious yes. Um, and so I flew across the country by myself and rented my car and drove there, and got to meet these beautiful souls at the writers' retreat. So it was great to give Atlantis and Barbara and you, Laura, a hug in person.
for sure. Takes some courage to travel on your own. And I know that feeling. It's, it's, oh, what is that? Like, you're not sure if it's all going to go smooth, or if you'll have to, solve a problem or do all the things. I'm so, so grateful that you made that trip. And and made it and were a part of that beautiful love warrior energy. Thanks for talking about that piece of it, because I do get the question quite a bit, why are you using the word warrior? Because then it's, about war. And I always like to talk about that a little bit differently. Um, what would you say about that? Like how you think of that differently, that term?
Well, to me, it feels like you have to be strong in order to be, and that's one of my superpowers, is being strong and gentle at the same time and filled with love. So for me, it's a good fit. It all fits together. Um,
So tell us a little bit about the why behind the story that you chose to share this. So, you're back from being in multiple projects, same as Atlantis. I thank you both for being back and continuing your your beautiful writing and work and love in this community. So thank you for that. And Jeanette, I've been watching you share your stories and different pieces of your path. Give us just a little insight into that why behind this story.
Well, this story was given to me. I'm a pancreatic cancer survivor. I had pancreatic cancer in 2019, and my best friend was diagnosed with it the next year. And so we journeyed um, separately and together along that path. And I lost her a year and a half ago. And so it was difficult for me to want to thrive and shine when she was not thriving. And so this story was very healing for me to write, which is healing with your angels, release survivor's guilt, and thrive. And she was my biggest cheerleader. Even writing this story, she it was like, right behind me on my shoulder, helping me along the way, as she did in life in general. So I felt like it was such a healing journey for me to write this story and to be in that energy. There was a certain energy of love for us to be together and meet the team for this book and for the business book. And it was magical and so transformative for us to be together in that space. Um, it was just amazing. So I'm so grateful that I said yes, that I could be a part of it, and that my desire is that my story will give somebody hope and give them a tool to move forward in their healing.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing about that.
Thank you.
I thought all of your topics were brave for so many different reasons. And it was for me, it was like, well, duh, like How to Be Brave book, like collaborate, like let's have all the voices and stories. Let's have all the ways to talk about this. There was a chapter and a question that really inspired this that I haven't really talked about. But somebody said, well, I don't like it when people call me brave because that wasn't my definition. And I heard that statement and I'm like, whoa, okay. Then what would it be, right? For each person individually. And it's so cool that we have all your unique stories and voices and then tools. So this book for our readers is going to be the ultimate companion for courage. I love that idea, right? And you're going to have so many ways to understand this. Atlantis, what's the most important thing you want people to know about courage?
Well, I was going to take the brave question. So courage, I'm like, well, I consider it to be a little different, but I will dovetail off of the warrior. whenever I hear people say, I don't want to be called a warrior, I think of two things. One, women have been programmed to be small and meek and mild and not to take on the mantle of warrior, that somehow that's not like a faint maiden waiting to be rescued. And then I also think about the samurai, the greatest Japanese warriors ever to walk in Japan, never used their sword. They were the greatest swordsmen in the world, but they never used their sword. They always used diplomacy first. So they could, but the warrior, you know, being someone who can employ the tools that they have and the mastery that they have, or not. They have so many different ways. So for me, I actually identify more with brave than courageous, because I think of courageous as doing something that needs to be done. But for me, brave is you do it first. You're going to go on stage first. You're going to put yourself out there first. People will have courage to follow you. But to me personally, I always have identified with brave, being afraid to do something, doing it anyway, which I think is the classic Ernest Hemingway definition. And just going, yeah, I'm afraid and I might be mocked and I might be made fun of, and I, you know, people might look at me funny, all the things. And it's like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to do it anyway, because I'm here, I'm filled up with this purpose. And honestly, I feel like I have no choice. I feel like for me, there is no choice but to be brave. There's no choice but to move forward and to carve out a path for other people behind me. It is in my wiring. It is who I am. And I embrace that completely. And God gave me things like dyslexia and neurodivergence. So sometimes I write things that are funny or say things that are funny or they're out of order just to keep me humble. But I'm still forward. I'm still, you know, I'm still me. So that's how I work it out in my mind.
I love how you kicked that question off, because there are some interesting differences in how people think about the words brave and courage. So thank you for that. Okay, Jeanette, your turn on this one. What's the most important thing you want people to know about courage, about being brave? You choose how you want to answer that.
Stepping into your power and being your magnificent self, um, without the you know, the limiting beliefs or the ideas that you grew up with, um, to stand firm in your truth and shine like only you can, because we're here, um, to do that. You know, we came here to live this mission, and Atlantis talked about it earlier, you know, with women in their 36 to 40 range. You know, it's like, okay, I'm tired of all that. I'm going to be me. Let me be me. And I think, you know, shining our light as only we can is our mission, whatever that is. And that's how to be brave.
It does get talked about a lot in terms of like, okay, what does that being out there, being the authentic me even mean, right? And it's different for every single person. And I do agree that that process requires something for many people, because of maybe what we think people will think about the real me or the authentic me. So I love that you brought that particular subject into this. Okay, Barbara, for you, what's the most important thing you want people to know about courage or being brave?
I think it helps us to tap into inner strength that we may not recognize that we have. And so it's really exploring in greater depth who you are. I thought I had it all together until my granddaughter saw pieces of me that I hardly recognized myself, and then had a chance to look at it from my many years into her 19 years, and I'm more than for that. And so it's just, it also makes me realize that even at 83, there's a whole lot more that I can delve into,
Mhm.
and encourage people to look at the parts that they thought it was just those weird kids
Mhm.
living in a world so different from the one we grew up in.
I think that again, you're just giving me that gift of closing the gap between generations, between ages, and I love that you're doing that today. I'm so grateful for your wisdom and also for your awareness. To all three of you, just another thanks for like walking that walk of awareness, for being who you are, curious and open and loving and healing vibes, people who want to help others. Y'all are going to have so many gifts in this book in terms of those things that I just mentioned. And in the interview today, I just, I can feel them coming out of all of you for sure. I want to answer this question in my version, because the thing that was most important for me in terms of fear and then overcoming it, being brave or having courage, for me, it's about the fact that I recognize the feeling in my body as sometimes it's a tightness in my chest, sometimes it's in the gut, sometimes it's a combo, sometimes the knot is in my throat. So when I began to be aware of the physical sensation of fear, understand what was creating it, but then I noticed I was making that feeling mean a whole lot of extra crappy baggage. And so all of the thoughts that poured in over this, just this feeling in my body, that's what it was a feeling in my body. I was making it mean something much, much, much bigger and scarier than it was. And it would be throwing me into the pit and paralyzing me. And so with that awareness journey, that self-development journey, I learned how to move with the feeling. I learned how to not make the feeling mean anything extra and recognize if it was purpose driven, something I really did want to do or say or be. And for me, that was the breakthrough. That's the most important thing I want people to know, is that um, it's a feeling inside, and you need to give yourself permission to feel that and just notice what you're making it mean. See if you can move even 1% with the feeling, right? What is the action you need to take to move through a little bit? Jeanette, I have this next question for you first. And here is the setup of this a little bit. So when I think about being brave, I think about fear, I think about my younger self a lot. And when I say that to you all today, you're going to have a vision of your younger self at a particular age. It'll be different for all three of you today and anyone listening. So I'm not going to put an age on it. I'm just going to ask you, what's the most important piece of advice you'd give to that younger self about being brave?
Um, to me, I would say to my little Jeanette that it's okay to feel scared, and it's going to be all right. You don't have to know the answers to everything right now. Just move forward and let joy be your guide. Um, do what lights you up. I wish someone would have told me that. It would have made things a lot easier in my teen years, but that was part of my journey. So to me, that's what I would say.
I love that. And of course, I think with the three of you here, really all of the authors and healers in our world would say we don't have a whole lot of regret for our past, because we know it's what got us to the place we are doing what we're doing in the world today. And yet I do think of that little girl sometimes too. And I'm like, oh, here's what I would say to you, like, come on. Um, Barbara, how about you? What would that piece of advice to your younger self be?
It's a wonderful world, honey. Go for it.
That's great.
There's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. You're living in a different world in many ways, but in truth, it's the outside setting changes, but the inside is what grows and develops and expands and can take in all the amazing things around you and what you can contribute in so many different settings, and listening to your heart and going with it. Enjoy the ride.
I love it, Barbara. That is a good piece of advice. Enjoy the ride. All right, Atlantis, you're going to close us out on this one. What's that piece of advice you'd give?
Well, when you said your younger self, I kind of hop skipped from like my younger 40 self, what I would tell her, my younger 30 self. I couldn't talk to my younger 20 self. She didn't have anything, that there was no talking to her. And then I was like, ooh, the teen, that was really heavy. But I immediately went back to that little Emmy, that 9-year-old. And I thought about her, and I have a picture of myself about that age. And I always identify as being 9. And if I could, I would go back in time and I would tell her in the woods, in the forest, when she's out roaming around, to stay exactly as you are right now, and that you are actually your most powerful, potent self at 9. You are protected by a black dragon. Don't ever believe anything anybody says about you. Whenever somebody says something about you, I want you to stop and just say, is that true? For me? Is that true? Because most of it is not. And I would have stopped heaping on all the stuff that people told me and said about me to say, yeah, that's the way you are, and said, no, that's the way you are, and we call that projecting. So I would just tell her, stick with the dragon, ignore everybody, just ask yourself the question, is that true, for the rest of your life? And that will save you a lot of heartache.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. Gosh, I love listening to all of your versions of this question. And thanks for being brave enough to answer that, all of you, so authentically from your heart, which is really what everyone is going to feel in this book. To all 3 of you, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share your hearts and souls with everyone. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks for making it easy.
So out to you, our listeners today, the readers of this beautiful book, How to Be Brave, Self-Healing Tools for Love Warriors. Maybe you heard something today that made you curious, or I don't know, you got the goosebumps like me constantly when I listen to these beautiful authors. Maybe you need support. This is way more than a book. It is a generous community of people waiting for you to reach out. We know it's hard to reach out sometimes. We know that action is sometimes what requires the biggest amount of courage, is just to reach out and ask somebody for help. But drop on down into the show notes, because all of these authors are hooked up with their links and sites, and they are ready and waiting for you to ask that question, reach out for support. You are part of a big community that really cares about this topic and about helping people. I'm so honored and grateful to all of you today, and to the entire Brave Healer community, for being that kind of person, walking this walk with me of awareness. And you're all invited to the book launch party too, by the way. So down below, you're going to find some information about how to join us on October 24th on Zoom. I'm going to have all the How to Be Brave authors with us, and we're going to be doing some fun giveaways and party stuff. So come and join us for that. And of course, you can hop over to Amazon and grab your copy of this beautiful, powerful, life-changing book. We hope that you grab your copy. Come and leave your review for us. Let us know how you liked it. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.